Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the City Commission meeting, special call meeting on February 24th, 2025 at 5 p.m. I'm calling this meeting to order with an invocation from Commissioner Campbell and Pledge of Allegiance, Commissioner Bora.
Join me in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father God, we thank you for this day. We thank you for your grace, God. We thank you for your mercies. We ask as we go forth with this meeting, God, that you give us the wisdom, the knowledge, and understanding to make the best decisions for our community to help it move forward. We ask these prayers and all other prayers in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
After me, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Carrera,
Present.
Commissioner Davis, Commissioner Campbell,
Present.
Commissioner Jones,
Present.
Commissioner Boren.
Present.
Thank you. We have quorum. I'm going to open the floor up to public comments. Is there anybody here for public comments? Seeing none, we'll close public comments. We're going to on to regular business.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, go ahead, Commissioner
Um,
Davis.
I'd like to make a motion that we add an emergency item to regarding the city manager hiring.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Motion a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposition? Thank you. And if there's a second emergency.
I'd like to make a emergency item that we appoint Mr. Avery Hunter to the pension board effective immediately.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposition? Any nays? Thank you.
If we could potentially move that particular emergency agenda item, I know this is out of order, you usually hear them last. If we could move that to the front so Mr. Hunter can go home.
Okay.
Since it's an emergency item, I make a motion that we accept the nomination or appointment.
A second.
Okay, and Mr. Hunter, would you like to
Would you like to come up, Mr. Hunter?
We got a vote. Do we need to vote? Don't we need to vote?
Commission is good for us.
We got to vote. Do we need to vote to approve the motion? No.
We have to,
Emergency.
we have to swear him in for this appointment, so.
Yes, go ahead.
Avery, repeat after me. I, Avery Hunter, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support, protect, and defend the Constitution of Government of the United States in the state of Florida, and the Charter of Ordinances of the City of Palaca, that I am duly qualified to hold office under requirements of the Constitution of the state, and that I will and faithfully perform the duties of general employees, pension board member, on which I am about to enter. So help me God. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
If I can have you sign this. Can sign both of them.
Yeah, we're ready. I was just letting you finish. Thank you very much. No, it's fine. Yeah, it's fine. Just, it's done. On to regular business. Item B, objectives and goals for the city manager performance appraisal, or should we be discussing the city manager position first?
If you're going to change the agenda, you just need to make a motion to move the agenda items.
agenda and accept the city manager, report, for consideration as our first item.
We have a motion.
Second.
Second, all in favor? Aye. Any opposition? Thank you. Okay, has everybody had an opportunity to read the response received from Mr. Jones today?
I have.
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Davis, thoughts?
Well, first of all, there was a deadline of 5 p.m. Friday, which was not adhered to. Secondly, based on the request for 20 weeks of severance, that is a non-negotiable for me, based on the history of our city managers, especially most recently. And, I'd like to see us move forward with our contingency, which I'll hold until later, until we get additional responses from the commissioners regarding the letter.
Okay,
So
Commissioner-
I am not a proponent of accepting the counteroffer.
Commissioner Barham, your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are, I mean, basically what he wrote up in there in his response was that I guess he had to deal with his counsel as well. So I'm not sure, given the time frame that he had to respond, he did respond by today, which my request was to have it back by sometime today. And so it would have met that time frame, even though Friday was the deadline. You didn't have many hours to actually respond. And I think his request was to ask for, I mean, whatever the industry requires as it relates to the severance piece. I don't know if whatever the industry requires, I mean, we don't want to do anything different than whatever the ICMA industry requires. And so I was amenable to that piece as well with the 20 weeks or what have you. So, but whatever the commission decides, I'll be willing to help in that regard and move forward if that's what the commission wants.
Commissioner Jones?
Basically, just reading this, I just received it. Sitting here and I kind of concur with Commissioner Bourne. We're gonna close the business on Friday and today. We were gonna get it today and make a decision today. I would like to be clear going forth, that no matter who we select, on what the industry standards are. Because when you're making a decision, it should be a decision with the most information possible given to us. And when we're making a decision about severance packages, the industry standard, the pay scale, and because people that we considered for the positions have asked for numbers that seem big, maybe they are the industry standard. And are we gonna go along with that and take that in consideration? Or are we gonna draw a hard line in the sand and say, okay, maybe we need to set the cap to what it truly is so that it won't come back on the commission as if we're not really working, either working within those parameters, or we're just offering way too, we're setting the bar way too high. Because if I was applying for a job, I would actually ask for the top tier. My other point that I want to make, and again, I'm like Commissioner Bourne, it's whatever happened out of this meeting, I really want to do what's right and do the right thing. I feel those documents should need to be in front of us. Before we actually had a pay scale that Attorney West presented, I have email for him. And it actually had all of the city manager's salary throughout the state of Florida. And that would have been instrumental in deciding where we want to be, whether it's our second pick, his first pick, whatever, going forward. I think we need to utilize those tools that we had. This go around, it wasn't available. I hadn't seen it. I don't think the entire commission, I have it, but I don't think the entire commission was actually privy to such, or we utilize it. I know it didn't come up on the board when I tried to email it. So in absence of those things, I don't actually have a recommendation other than what I want to know where we're gonna go from here. You're asking me about it. Those are two things that I would like to have in front of me before I make a solid decision, because whether it's, again, this candidate or another candidate, I would like to be consistent and give whoever we bring in what they deserve in that particular position. So, and I had a call coming into this meeting today from a constituent asking those questions. Did we consider the city manager average salary for a city this size? And I had to be transparent and say we did not have a standard that we actually went by. It almost went like we went from our salary wage that our advertisement, which was very big, from 122,000 to top hit 190 plus. So, so to answer your question, what you asked, it's open for discussion, and I just hope you start with some dialogue and discussion.
Thank
Further.
you. Commissioner Campbell?
I want us to be completely, for lack of better words, I want us to have the same energy we had the other day today. We spoke with regards to a time frame. If the time frame that was provided was something that we did not want to adhere by, it should have been changed at that time. I get it. Things happen, but regardless, a response is better than no response. And in a professional setting, with the experience stated by Mr. Jones, that should have been something that was at the forefront of his conversation. Allow me the opportunity to get back with you all versus not responding at all by the given time frame. It appears that people tend to do what they want to do, and we began to be flexible. However, are we going to be flexible if those individuals sit in the seats and they don't meet our standards or our qualifications or our deadlines? Sometimes things, when they say, when you meet a person and they show you who they are, believe them. And I'm not for trends, and I'm not for changing midstream, as we also have heard that several times before throughout this process. So the response I'm grateful for. I stand firm. There was a deadline that was not met. With regards to the industry standards, it's only a guideline to go by. It is not a real concrete memorandum that we have to adhere to. Industry standards also cover cities that have hundreds of thousands of people in them, whereas we don't. So again, as we proceed forth, again, we all are entitled to our thought process, but when deadlines are not met, those are red flags to me. Regardless of how minor or how big, it's a red flag to me.
Thank you. Can I please
Yes,
give my
thank you.
input? Thank you. I concur with Commissioner Davis and Commissioner Campbell. I think as a professional, responding in a timely fashion is paramount. It gives me some concern and pause if somebody can't do that, Also, we did say 10-week severance standards, as was said, are guidelines, they're not carved in stone. And there's also a request, on this counter to remove the loss of severance protections during the probationary period, which I strongly disagree with. So, at this point, I am not in favor of this second counter. And again, that's my thoughts. Commissioner Boren?
Again, I want to reiterate what I said. I said whatever the will of the commission was. I just stated the point that I made initially as it related to my request instead of cutting it off on Friday, which I said, let's see if he could respond by Monday based on the time frame. I'm not trying to change anything midstream. I just made a request last week. But when we talk about city manager salary, we also got to consider people who work under the city manager. They're not going to come in most of the time underneath what the next highest person paid. And again, nobody ever says anything about other salaries within the city. So why you pound on the city manager position so hard when that is the top position for somebody who is truly qualified for the position? Again, and based on Mr. Jones' response back, he's not begging to come work here. He have other options. I'm just, if you look at his write-up, he's not begging to knock the door down to get anywhere. He have other offers. So he was just willing to be able to assist and help the city with his experience that he have as a seasoned city manager. That's my comment.
Go ahead.
The experience that he has as a city manager, he has municipal experience, but his management as an actual city manager has been in recent years. It's not 25 years of city manager experience. So as we talk about experience, let's take in consideration the role of what we're talking about. He has city manager experience, but it's been more recent years. He has municipal experience, but not in the area of city management.
Yeah, go ahead, Commissioner Davis.
I just want to clarify a couple of things. ICMA has recommendations for severance. So there's a standard, and again, it's a general recommendation. But there are so many things that impact amount of severance that's reasonable for the city of Palatka and other cities, because all cities are not the same. In addition to mentioning the amount of the severance, this counter offer, the second counter, also mentioned concern about the probationary period without what he considers a reasonable severance to prevent him from being fired or let go based on political reasons. So again, I do want to say this. We have to look at our city. We have to look at what we can offer. What we're offering is not out of line with guidelines based on the makeup of our city and what we have, in my opinion. So I did want to say that. And I do have a question. What is the salary of the next highest paid person in the city?
Ms. Jones? Yes, I know. Okay, that would be great.
Yes, we need to get that.
That would be great.
And I'm also having that spreadsheet printed up for you, Commissioner Jones, and just really quickly, Florida statutes, 215.425 limits, it puts the cap on severance in the state of Florida to 20 weeks. So that is the absolute
Maximum.
high maximum.
Okay. Also note that, and again, Commissioner Davis wouldn't receive this because she wasn't in office yet, but Ms. West did send the Florida City Manager's salary information in an email on October 29th. So we did receive that at that time. I just pulled it up.
Right. As I said, I had it, but I want to make sure everyone had the
Yes,
same.
obviously,
Right.
Yeah, Ms. Davis.
Um,
Ms.
so,
Davis wouldn't- yeah.
I think that's important.
Well, I agree. I agree.
Because when we, again, and it's the constituents that are saying that the salary is outrageous, but when they don't know the full facts of what we're talking about now, the next highest person, their salary, how promotions and things occur as far as the percentage that others receive, that's gonna affect whoever we bring in. So with that being the case, I think when we talk about full transparency, let it be known so that they're not saying that we're having favoritism towards somebody that we think considering bringing in, or we're being extra harsh on someone. So, but the parameters that in which we work in, I would like for the public to know and to know the reasons why. I mean,
I just, Mayor,
Commissioner, go ahead, Commissioner
I
Campbell.
feel like we're constantly backpedaling.
Me too.
And I feel that as we sit on this dais, a lot of times we want everything to be hand fed to us. We have to go out and do our own research. We have to go out and do our homework. And we get in here and we have these meetings and we want the explanations. This is information that has been provided to us previous. We've had several conversations with regards to the salary that we wanted, or the salary, regardless of what was printed on the job description. We've had extensive conversation, and now to bring it back up, we gave our minimum and we gave our max. It's what, if we're gonna accept it, let's accept it. If we're gonna, we stood last meeting firm on the non-negotiables, which was for the vast majority of us, the 10-week severance. So I'm not understanding why we're having that conversation. With regards to other stuff outside of the salary, I think that we need to go ahead and make a decision if we're going to accept or we're going to deny, and let's move this city forward in a manner that will benefit not only staff here at City Hall, but our citizens, City Hall and city staff, but our citizens. We don't have time to continue to belabor. We didn't go back and forth when we were trying to negotiate a interim. So why should we go back and forth when we're trying to negotiate our city manager? And when we sat here in multiple meetings, had several conversations with regards to high, low. Again, I'm not here to spend all night when we can just simply make a decision to moving forward. I know it's a critical condition, but all questions at this point tonight, our main focus should have been coming in here, setting the guidelines or evaluations for a city manager, understanding that an emergency item has come up with regards to a candidate. Like you say, he's not beating down the door to come here. And we're not going to continuously open our door back and forth for negotiations when we sat in two separate meetings and gave our highs, our lows, and our non-negotiables.
Thank you, Commissioner. Do we have?
Madam Mayor,
motion?
I would like to make a motion. I want to make sure that all comments are clear before. Is it appropriate?
Yes.
I move that we do not accept the second counter offer and withdraw the offer to Mr. Redmond Jones.
Our second.
We have a motion, a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposition? Do we have? did you-
Roll call, please.
Roll call, please.
Yeah.
Commissioner Jones,
yay.
Commissioner Campbell,
Yay.
Commissioner Davis. Yay. Mayor Carrera.
Yes, yeah. Thank you.
Mayor,
Yes, go ahead, Commissioner Davis.
I would like to offer an open discussion regarding our way forward. My recommendation is that we offer the city manager position to our interim city manager with a base salary of $170,000, with the contract terms in the original contract. No relocation obviously is applicable. And I'd also recommend some language for Ms. Cardy to obtain the credentials from ICMA for, I guess, certified city managers within 1 year or some appropriate
Timeline.
timeline and agree, that we can agree on. So I do want to offer that for discussion. I'd also like to provide my rationale. We did follow the process that was laid out. It did not result in obtaining a city manager. Ms. Cardy did interview for the position, and she was in the top 4 according to our rankings. And I had conversation with some city staff, just in general, since I've been commissioner. And one thing I think Ms. Cardy can offer is that she knows our city. She's been doing the position along with her finance director position. I do believe, given the opportunity to just do one role, that she could probably make an even better impact. And the city needs to move forward. The other thing, finally, that I want to say that Ms. Cardy does offer is some semblance of, we know her. People know her. She knows the city. And we are on a trajectory, from my observation opinion, of going towards stability, especially when the last city manager was let go. So there's some bleeding that has stopped. And I think overall, our constituents are favorable. And I think with the proper support, with clear guidelines, expectations, with our defined goals and our defined evaluation process in place, I think it could be a way for the city to move forward. Thank you.
If
Go ahead, Commissioner Campbell.
that was a motion, I second it.
I do
think-
too. As far as discussion, I also think part of this would be obviously that her vacant position be filled as soon as possible, as feasible, and that there is also a succession plan. Go ahead, we're just discussion point there.
Okay, so I just looked up on ICMA, and the qualifications to get your certification is 3 years, 3 to 4 years, depending on the action you take. So she has 3 to 4 years and not just a year. Just
Just
letting you know that
clarification.
that's the qualifications.
Thank you. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Do you want for this?
So moved, what I said.
Discussion.
Okay,
I was actually seconding in hopes of going into
that's,
discussion, so I
yes, we
will.
have a motion, and a second, and then we have discussion. Commissioner Jones?
So just for understanding processes as we continue, I think, I can appreciate Mrs. Davis' assessment that she's been here a little over 30 days. And I said,
Commissioner.
Okay, okay,
Oh,
go
oh.
on, please.
And as we go into this again, selection process, and an effort to have good working relationship between commissioner and manager, I want to make sure that I support and we have a consensus on this dais. With that being said, I asked for some information, and you guys brought this motion forward without having information from HR that I requested. And it wasn't just asked arbitrarily just to be asking questions, Campbell. It was asked, Commissioner Campbell, it was asked so that even with Ms. Carty or whoever going forward, we throw a number out. Let's kind of be consistent. as far as I want to know, we talked about the we talked about what we're looking for in the city manager. We asked that question. Actually, a candidate asked you, Mayor, what are we looking for in a city manager? And what would they be tasked with? And you said the answer was given basically public safety. We really didn't give that direction. And I guess that when we say we got familiarity with Ms. Carty, those are things that she already knows. At this point, again, my question is the salary, are we being fair to her? Is this something that she's okay with, that salary? Obviously, there may have been already, we probably already know that some kind of ways. I guess the majority would know.
No,
She
it would,
would
that
set
offer would have to be extended. That has not happened yet.
Okay,
Yeah.
so, are we gonna also, before we make this decision, are we gonna have a assistant city manager position? Is that something that we're gonna also fill, we're gonna fill that position anytime soon?
Well, first of all,
thi-
that is the
this is-
duck. Okay, finish up.
Okay, I mean, this is the point where I'm asking, because if we were hiring at this point, an inexperienced city manager, would that be needed? I know we say we're gonna hire
Mayor, I do want to interrupt because
No,
this is a
no,
point of order.
No, because I.
There's a
interrupt
motion
you.
on there's a motion on the
It's
floor.
discussion and it's irrelevant. It's
Okay, you
relevant.
need to stop one
Because
at a time.
You have a habit of doing
Would
that.
you just please?
Uh,
yeah.
So this is
Keep
relevant
up.
to my decision making. It's going into a vote. And so at this point,
Wrap it up.
you can get a point of order afterwards. Are we gonna do that? Because that's taken into consideration when we're talking about the pay and how much we're gonna pay.
We
I
gotta wrap
think
it up,
that
Commissioner Jones.
should go into the consideration of how my vote will go. Again, I'm trying to make a
I
decision.
understand, but other
and-
people.
and base it
waiting. Point of
upon-
order.
I just told you that people called and asked about the salary.
Okay.
So
We
if
need
I
to stop.
could,
Please stop.
My point of order.
Wait a minute, Commissioner Campbell was next.
My
Please
point
stop.
of order, which supersedes. My point of order was related to introducing new information that was not in my motion about an assistant city manager. That was my only point of order.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Campbell?
I think, first of all, we will not downgrade anyone by the time frame of which they have been elected. And we can't water down them not.
point of order, why are we
You know,
talking about
first of all,
that?
this is me.
Why are we talking about that?
No, because.
They don't
this
have
is-
anything.
No.
I said point of order.
No.
You don't know.
Stop.
I'm talking about the respect factor.
You don't
You
correct me on
I
this
didn't
diet.
correct you.
That's what
Okay,
you going back to a correction. I think we did.
If we can't get it.
I want us to focus
stop.
on the matter at hand, which is a city manager, regardless of the time frame anyone has been elected to this council. That's the point that I was making, and I'm still talking. What we are here today, we've made a decision not to hire our candidate, which was Mr. Jones. For consideration, there was a motion made for consideration that went to a second so that we can have the proper discussion. Whether you're for it or whether you're not for it, it all goes back to the respect factor of what we need to have as we move this forward. So I say this simply because for consideration, when I was actually supposed to speak before you, I asked specifically when we were doing the interview process, were we going to give consideration to an inside candidate, in which we normally do? In any organization, you always give consideration to a candidate that applies from
We have
within.
to do it, what we're talking about.
I'm making a point.
That ain't motion.
Time.
The motion is now
You guys-
for discussion.
Point of order, just
Do you
like
know-
commission,
Okay, if we're going to-
that means you need to talk about what we were just discussing.
I'm talking-
Discussion, and we're going to vote because we're not going down this road of arguing.
I'm getting to a point that Ms. Carty is not a new conversation when it comes down to the candidacy of city manager. Regardless of feelings, regardless of anything, there was even a motion that was made during the interview process that involved Ms. Carty that was died because of what could have, the conversation that I had earlier. So again, we have something before us for consideration, which is clear, but the amount and all of those things, those can be up for discussion. She's
Okay.
operating as our interim city manager right now. We know that we want to have someone in place by by March 1st. We understood the time frame, but then again, if there is new information that the commissioner is willing or wanting us to have to take in consideration, we can still move on as we are and then have this conversation. That's what I was trying to make.
So we have a motion, a second roll call, Madam Clerk, please.
Commissioner Davis? Yay. Commissioner Campbell?
Yay.
Commissioner Jones? Commissioner Jones? Commissioner Moore?
No, you on Jones. How you gonna skip?
What's the motion? Can you restate the motion?
Point, Ms. Carty to, manager with certification within.
That wasn't the motion.
We'll let Commissioner Davis reiterate the motion,
I
please.
restate it. It's to offer Ms. Carty the position of city manager with a base salary of $170,000. With the contract terms in the original contract that went to Mr. Jones, excluding relocation because it's not applicable, and adding verbiage for ICMA certification within 1 year of starting.
Within the
I'm sorry,
prescribed
within the
time.
prescribed time, per ICMA guidelines. And to backfill, if accepted, the finance director role.
So that's two motions, isn't it?
No,
The backfill,
it's part
a
of it.
different position?
Ms. West, can that be considered part of the entire motion, please?
You could break this down into smaller bits. Sure.
Go
Yes, you
ahead,
may.
Commissioner Davis.
I move that I don't write the right term, but separate the motion.
Yeah,
It
you just
is.
I know.
It's-
restate a motion that is easy to
I
understand,
make
that
the
doesn't tie.
The motion on the table is already there. Being that Ms. Carty is stepping into, consideration of stepping into a full-time position, the
Correct.
vacancy will be available. So we just knocked it out in one particular motion. It doesn't have to be two motions. We make stuff so much difficult than what it needs to be. Thank you, Ms. That's why I seconded, so we can move forward. Thank you, Commissioner Davis.
Again,
Commissioner Jones?
I vote yay to,
Yay.
yay. Yes, Commissioner Davis.
I want to make clear, when I'm calling for a point of order, it is not to make anyone stop talking, generally speaking. The motion was not relevant to the assistant city manager discussion. That's the only point I was trying to make, that we could not introduce new information that was not relevant to that motion, but it was not to stop a commissioner from talking. So I do want to be clear about when I'm saying point of order, what I'm saying, and I didn't get to explain it. So
Thank you.
apologies if needed, Commissioner.
no apologies. Mayor,
Go ahead, Commissioner Jones.
On this, again, we're still in discussion. That vote has been completed. I asked for information that still have not been presented back to the dais that Ms. Jones went so kind of to get. And I still would like for it to be answered. And again, when we're making these decisions, rather a commissioner want to say that information was given to us prior to, and we should do our own research. Research is already done. However, when we're up here, it's not an audience of people that actually are partaking in our decision making. All we're going to do is see it in the headlines. I like to make it clear that the reason for our choices is A, B, or C. And if we spell it out, there's no room for misinterpretation. Okay, so it's done for a reason. And as much as some commissioners don't like to be held down to time restraints or be here a long period of time, I think it's imperative that we put the information out to the public so that we don't have to fill these calls and emails later for what we did and why we did them. So a good point came out that the city attorney is the second highest paid person right now. And so we would have to give the city manager a substantial amount more. Okay, within 6 months, I think there's in the original contract that it's going to be an evaluation. No, that's those things. I'm just with the counter. So, so it's not.
It's not in the original, no. That was, again, the first, a response to the first counter made by Mr. Jones.
So there's not a 6 month. Is a
There's
6 month
probation.
probationary period?
Yes, yes, there is.
No evaluation.
No, an evaluation, but
Same
not
contract.
necessarily stepped.
So-
Salary step.
Yes.
Go ahead, Commissioner Jones.
Okay.
I mean, Ms. Jones, I'm sorry.
So the first contract was the offer of 170. I mean, 162. That was the offer. So the counter, the amount that we were given authorization to, if the counter came back, was in that range of 170. Doing that first offer, which is what the motion that Commissioner Davis made, is to offer based on that original offer. The original contract, and that excludes the 6 months and the 12-month steps in pay.
Right.
So that wasn't in the original, so that's excluded. We're simply using the first original contract that was submitted with the base salary. The first that we submitted to Mr. Jones was 162. Commissioner Davis was the 170. To your point of what you asked me to go get, that salary is 162,780.
So the city attorney is at 162.78.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
Right. So let's go back. So severance and all that stuff remains at the.
10 weeks at what we originally proposed in the first contract, yes.
Okay.
Go ahead, Ms. West.
The only thing I'm going to add is, according to Gov salaries, the average city attorney salary in Florida is 230,000, which does exceed the average salary for city managers in the state of Florida, with the highest city attorney coming from Boca Raton at 509,000 a year.
But I guess what the community is more focused on, they're more focused on the city manager, and that's where we were getting the backlash on, but no other position,
Correct.
irregardless of the pay, there was no concern regardless of those other salaries. And that's a problem. And I think where we actually tripped at when we was just a little over a year ago, about going on a year and something, when the interim assistant city manager was in place, the number was 136 for our salary coming in for that position. And so, but then at the end of the day, it turned out to be 153. And I didn't have any additional knowledge until we learned about when we went out for the new city manager who came in, Troy Bell, at 162. And so we got a lot of backlash from that salary, but there's no backlash when it comes down to other salaries within the city. And we're responsible for the city manager position. And so we get hit pretty hard on that, but then we have salary creep in, you know, with other positions, and there's no comment.
Okay, I think we have concluded this conversation. We need to move to the next agenda item at this point. We're on to objectives and goals for the city manager performance.
I don't think we're completely done.
Go ahead.
So are we given a time frame?
Oh, for
Ms. Carter,
response,
of the
yes.
response? And if so, what is the pleasure of the commission?
I think we should try to keep it basically the same as we did for Mr. Jones, which was what, 48 hours?
You said, response time?
Yes. Was that what we, when you calculate, was it 48 hours roughly from Mr. Jones?
Wednesday night to Friday night.
Yep. So I think we have to do a similar time frame.
So Wednesday night.
Any other issues to conclude or to bring up with this process? Any other concerns, additions?
If in fact that we have to go through this again, I like the entire process written out from point A to Z. In the event, I hope we don't. I hope Ms. Carter worked out with this, and I'm going into this with a positive attitude and outlook. I don't want the discussion that we had, because I think it had to be had up here, to reflect the unwillingness to go forth with the individual. It's not the individual. It is nothing to reflect on Ms. Carter's decision. I wanted to go into this with clarity, because I support Ms. Carter. She has been doing a good job. But I just think that our processes, we really need to be able to spill it out. And a lot of times staff make the decisions, and staff have the ability to make contact with these individuals, but the backlash don't really go to staff. It comes back to the commission. And a lot of times it looks like the commission is making a misstep. And I'm not pointing fingers, but I did want this to be out in the open, the points that we're making right now, so that the community is aware.
Commissioner Boyle.
All I'm doing is raise, can I not
Yeah.
do this?
Well, it is distracting, to be honest with you,
It's
but,
distracting, I mean,
yeah, but go
that's-
ahead, Commissioner Baum, go ahead, please.
No, I just want him to finish, I mean.
He's finished.
I'm
I
not-
think he's
I'm not-
finished.
I'm not
He's
rushed.
finished.
But you gotta settle down a little bit, man. I mean,
No, I don't. Go ahead,
the-
Commissioner Baum.
you know, and I think in terms of the process or what have you, we've always had professional services or recruiting agencies that did that. It is a lot for staff to have to try and put things together on their own, and then hiring their superior. I mean, they're hiring their manager, and so it's always a good, clean process to use a search firm like we have done in the past, and we've been successful at it a number of times. We had one hiccup or snafu, but that doesn't define going forward if that process is needed again and again. It's been clean for with the exception of one.
Thank you. Is there anything further on the discussion of this item? Can we move on to the next agenda item, objectives and goals for the city manager performance appraisal? Ms. Jones and company gave us several samples. Have we all had an opportunity to review them? And how would we like to proceed? Go ahead, Commissioner Davis.
Yes, so yes, they were reviewed. I will say that I did look at them and I submitted my recommendation for goals to be considered and added to the rest of the commission. And I believe it's the document that says, here's a draft of performance goals and evaluation criteria. This was my recommendation. What's not included in here is the performance tool, which there is one that I think we have a good example of. So that's really all I want to say. There are 7 categories that I believe cover much of what was in the draft that we were looking at from the previous work, the work from the previous commission. But my thought is that these goals are very clear. And it provides leeway for the manager to use, her management style and strengths and skill set to carry them out. One of the things I was concerned about is with the other goals, they were telling someone how to, I felt they were telling someone how to do the work, but we really want to do it. I also want to talk about one caveat to this. We have to have something for the incoming city manager. So these goals are really general for any city manager in a city, right? Things that need to be accomplished. I'm saying this because ideally, and I hope that we will be in a position in a year to align these goals with the city's strategic plan, which we don't have right now. So I do want to say that. But these are very general goals that probably encompass a lot of what we're provided as examples. So this is my input in writing. So I will listen and see what the other commissioners have, and we can see where we land. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Boyle?
Well, I'm just in alignment with what we've already constructed in the past, but mainly just making sure that we stay with the comprehensive plan for this city. If anybody is still aware of the comprehensive plan that we have, our strategic initiatives, our strategic plan that we currently have, we want to stay with these things, our capital improvement projects. We want to make sure that we have all of those things in play, and also the new projects that we currently have in terms of the new CRA district and everything else. All these different things need to be before us so we can continue to move the city forward.
Thank you, Commissioner Jones.
I'm fine with what we're presenting.
Thank you. Commissioner Campbell?
I'm fine with what we have with the additions that were added by or suggested by Commissioner Davis. I also like the simplicity of the layout of the
The ICMA one or the?
ICMA. And then I also like the simplicity of the one that was provided from the city of Oviedo. It gives us the opportunity to, if it needs improvement, identifying the areas of the improvement. If it meets the expectation, of course, there's nothing really to harbor on. But I want to take this a step further. And this is something that is done as we proceed with the evaluation of the city manager, and legal, let me know if this is something for consideration, that we allow the city manager to evaluate themselves and then present to us their evaluation, and we provide them with our evaluation of them. This currently how I'm evaluated, and it makes you really step up to the plate to see if you really are or needs improvement, meeting the expectations, or you are going overboard. Not overboard in a negative way, but you're exceeding the expectation. So that would be one recommendation that we allow the city manager to evaluate themselves and present back to the commission as a whole.
I agree. I was going to suggest that, and also perhaps that we, again, going forward, once we get to the probationary period, allow the city manager maybe to provide a goal that they want a lot of like to work on, that we can all agree upon to moving forward if they have some ideas too. Go ahead.
Want a clarification? Can you refer me what you guys, are you saying the original
Aqua-
document that you guys did?
Are you talking about the Ocklawaha? You said Oviedo.
I said Oviedo.
I know, but is there an Oviedo or is there, I saw Ocklawaha. I don't-
No, the one that I'm referring was sent in the emails. The
Mhm.
simplicity of that document that was sent in the email from Ms. Jones.
Right, that's this. Go ahead. Do you want to say something? Commissioner?
So again,
Yeah.
that's my question. That was my question to you, and I think Commissioner Borum is who said it. So I just want to make sure which ones you're saying you like.
Well, I like the main, the main one, because this pretty much is.
Same
most of what
thing.
We had the thing we've been using all along, the city, yeah, so it's nothing really like different. The first one here, I mean, it's
The
pretty
ICMA
much the same,
This,
yeah, it's pretty much same thing we've been using for the most part from what we had initially, right?
Mayor.
I was-
go ahead,
So
Commissioner.
let me make, oh, I'm sorry, let me make sure.
I'm referring to simplicity
Oh,
of.
that's not here.
I
Is
didn't
it?
think he didn't print this one off.
But
when you got
I
the
have it.
packet.
Yeah,
I
I
have it.
saw
I
it.
have it.
Emailed
We
to
have
you.
it.
I have it.
Oh, you did?
But so, man,
It's right there.
can I see that? I just did bring a hard copy. Can I see that? So two things I want to make sure I'm on the same page because again, to Commissioner Jones' point, I'm the new commissioner here and you guys have been doing this for a while. I consider this as two different things.
That's what I referred to.
Yes, this, what you've been using is an
It's the
evaluation,
rating.
which is not the goals.
Correct.
So when I'm trying to understand what is the commission, the other commissioners are saying are the goals, because my goals I have are, if we can, look, goals, performance plan. So two things. That's why I'm asking the question, where are we landing? I'm good with the performance plan recommendation. That's all.
Let me see, I don't have the one that you have.
That's the last part of the packet.
3 pages.
Okay, okay.
But in other words, I need some goals.
That, what I had alluded to at the beginning when I said to be clear, because it was asked to us and we really didn't clearly state those. So we'll be in the same predicament again without
So
having
these
the
need
goals
to
defined.
They need to be learned.
But they do, Mayor, you really.
Right, you've got to be able to rate the person too and have measurable goals, as we said before. So you can have some goals as we have, but you've got to have that rating tool as well that ties into it.
Okay, and I don't think, I think it does.
I'm agreeing with you, but I think we, yeah, we're all, I think we are kind of all semi-agreeing.
Well, we want to be clear though.
One at a time, please. Go ahead, Commissioner Ball.
I just said we just want to be clear on it because again, we still had some questions as related to that. And again, I think what Commissioner Davis mentioned a while back about the 360-degree review. I think, the other component to reviews is, you review yourself, your supervisor or manager reviews you, and you also have reviews from people you work closely with, contractors or whoever, because in this role, you're going to be dealing with a lot of people from the public as well as contractors and different things of that nature. So I think if we can get a little bit of feedback from that additional component, that'll give you a little bit more of a 360-degree review process where you're getting a little bit from the supervisor, the person themselves, rate themselves, and then we have people who also work closely with them. That's just a recommendation that I would like to add in, just one other component.
Commissioner Jones?
Just, this is a question. So the other candidates, we made them do a 30, 60, 90-day plan. And what was our intent with that? Was it to really see what they were going to produce? Is that something that we're going to ask or require, Ms. Cardi? What was the intent? I don't know. I'm just asking, what was the intent? Are we really trying to make that happen, Mayor?
I think the intent, yes, was to see the progress, see if there was room for improvement or if there were goals we hadn't provided and that we needed to kind of tweak this a bit and make sure that we were moving forward in the way that the commission desired and this person it was as well, their growth. And so I think the intent again was to make sure we were following what's going on. This commission hasn't been good at overseeing the city manager, frankly. There hasn't been evals done and such. And so I think it's time to really start that. And I think we can all learn from it by doing at the 60, 90, 180-day marks. Go ahead. You were saying something,
No,
Commissioner Bourne?
no,
Commissioner
Commissioner-
Jones, I thought you were saying, Commissioner Campbell, go ahead.
The question that Commissioner Jones asked with regards to the 30, 60, 90 days, I think that was a component that we brought in to see the thought process of where somebody from the outside who was looking for the organization to come into the organization, what they would do. I think with Ms. Cardy, again, consideration being that she's already operated in the position is a little bit different. And if we're asking her for her initial 30, 60, 90, if that's something that we're requesting, I'm open to it, but I believe the work that she's done speaks for her. The safety component of City Hall, the morale of the departments, the going through grants one by one, until she's gone through all of them, identifying grants that we would have missed the ball on and lost funding for and could have potentially been, in some hot water. So if that's something that we're asking her to do, I would ask her to put but put something together of the work that she's already done. Because again, we don't have time to slow down. We got to go full force ahead.
Commissioner Davis?
Yes, so to Commissioner Campbell's point, if Ms. Cardy does accept the offer and becomes a permanent city manager, and whomever accepts it at that point, because the candidates presented a hypothetical 30, 60, 90, right? For as part of their interview as an exercise, based on research or however they got that information. I believe that whoever comes in as a city manager needs to provide a 30, 60, 90-day plan. So, assign and understand their goals, and like to your point, if they want to add some goals to it, but we need to give goals. The other thing I want to say about the information that was previously used is that I think there are some key pieces that are missing or not clearly spelled out. One thing Ms. Cardy has done, she has filled some gaps. And that's one of the reasons I moved forward with the recommendation, because we have a lot of work to do and we've been spending a lot on trying to get a city manager. We have to get somebody here and we got work to do. To that point, there are some other pieces, because she was filling a gap that she's not even had an opportunity to work with and address. And those are things like economic development and growth,
Positive planning.
correct, collaboration and partnerships to the extent needed from a city manager, sustainability and environmental stewardship, especially with our buildings and the age of things in Palatka, economic development and growth. So that's one of the reasons I would like us to ensure that we're providing comprehensive goals that encompass every area of a project manager, and not to what we've been doing to fill gaps. But I'm looking for us to raise the bar for our city manager according to what that role should be doing in our city.
And I think in these performance goals that are in this back of the packet, it does say economic development and growth. I mean, we can expound on these, we can modify them, but some of that is kind of outlined briefly. So if, again, it's up to this commission to determine how they want to move forward, based on her experiences to date and based on those things she has not been able to tackle to date, that are things that the city needs to have addressed.
May I offer a suggestion
Go ahead.
for next steps? And make sure our goal tonight, is it to identify how we'll get these finalized? Or are we finalizing these tonight? That's my first question. And then I'll give my statement for my recommendation.
Could finalize it tonight and again, put this to bed and move forward. We keep going over things over and over again. And I'd like to see some finality so we can move forward and we don't have to workshop this again if possible.
agreed. I just want to make sure we all understood what we're trying to accomplish
Yeah.
here. So I've submitted mine and I'm gonna, so my recommendation is that we agree on a format that we like and then agree on the content for it and maybe fill that in? Is that what we need to do to end up with a document?
So you're talking about to fill out the evaluation tool with the content, or, I mean, so we have some goals and leadership, goals and objectives here. Are you talking about the actual evaluation tool and filling
I'm
that
talking
out?
about both. I'm
Both?
talking about identifying the goals, which are separate and distinct, like
Mhm.
what we want her, the areas, and then the evaluation criteria. And we have the cities, but, and ensuring that, first, I think we need to agree on the goals and then make sure the evaluation criteria links to that. Now, from looking at this, I think all of these examples provide great evaluation areas that, to me, coincide. It's just which ones we want and which ones we don't specifically, or if we want to add or delete some. So that's why I'm making a suggestion to a tangible way forward.
Anybody else have any input on this, or how, you know, again, to proceed and to move forward? Do we want to go through these goals quickly and make sure we're good with all of them, or need to add any more, or add or delete, whatever? We need to just move forward and get this done. So I personally think that this is a good layout. Go ahead, Commissioner Jones.
I thought we just did that when we said we're all okay with it.
Yeah, okay.
We just,
Okay,
yeah,
we just need to be clear.
oh, we agree.
Okay. That's fine. And again, I think there was some out of the tools here, which was the tool the majority of us preferred, the second one that was in the packet, which was assisting counsel with its policy, the one that had the needs improvement meets, the rating was needs improvement, meets expectations, exceeds expectations, or 1 to 5 rating.
Madam Mayor.
Go ahead.
Just so that we'll make sure we put the right thing in the document. The document that outlined the goals that were submitted by Commissioner Davis, is that what's been agreed upon
I believe
utilizing?
so.
We can
Yes.
vote on it, I mean, so
I
it's
feel you.
clear.
Okay, yes, so I just want
Okay.
to make sure we.
Do we
put
want to
the
make
right-
a motion, please, to accept?
I thought
Right.
that
Yeah, we
Campbell
did.
said in addition to hers, is that what you said? Yeah, hers added to what we had. No? Yeah, you did, well, okay,
So, okay.
however it is,
Okay.
I'm good with it.
So
It don't-
I'm fine to proceed forward. I'm fine. So we're clear on that.
Okay,
So,
I'm not clear. I'm sorry.
okay, so the document that Jones just started.
Starting page 35 of 37. Okay, these are your performance goals that you are going to adopt for the city manager.
And-
I'll say yes.
Yes, so do you want a motion and a vote?
I-
We have. I
it
think we
would
should
be
have
my
a motion and a
preference.
vote.
Yes.
Do we make a motion to accept?
To accept the performance goals for the city manager of City of Palaca as identified in our package, page 35 of 37.
35, 37.
Wait, 35 to 36.
35, 36.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Top of
A motion and a second, all in favor? Aye. Any opposition?
The evaluation,
Okay.
my recommendation, I stated that I like the city of Oviedo because it was very simple, which would have allowed us to explain. The only thing that I didn't want to get into as we look at the performance evaluation component is when we start the numbering game. Because sometimes the numbering game can be quite confusing. And when I say that, if we go back to Oklahoma,
Mhm.
and we look at their numbering system, it is 1 through 5 with regards to excellent, superior. That can be, you know what I'm saying, just when we get into that. But if we look at Oviedo, are they meeting the expectation? If you're not meeting the expectations, let's talk about why you're not meeting the expectation. If you are meeting the expectation, let's talk about how we can do better at getting you to exceed the expectation. So I believe that step and grade allows us to have actual dialogue that could be beneficial because it will allow the input of not only the commission, but it will allow the explanation from our city manager to explain, okay, where they are with that particular performance evaluation. So that's the only reason I considered that evaluation that was presented to us by with Oviedo.
So it's in pages 12 to 17, I'm sorry. No, 18 of our packet. So does anybody want to make a motion?
You make a motion? Commissioner, you wanna make the
Of
motion?
that
I'll
as-
make the motion that we adopt the evaluation form from the city of Oviedo with regards to our city manager evaluation process.
Second.
And
Okay,
Oviedo
we have
is,
discussion.
you say,
This-
Starts on page 11 of our packet.
11 to 18.
Yeah, well, maybe it's, yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
it's actually 12, I'm sorry, 12 to 18, 12 to 18. sorry. So we have a motion, a second, any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposition? Okay.
So we got that cleared up.
And finally, can we talk about processes to make sure we're on the same page? So we know we have to do an evaluation, but like this form, each commissioner, I'm assuming, will complete this and provide comments. Okay, got it. And we talked about 360.
Yeah.
So Miss,
And we
the
talked about
the city manager will complete and then,
Self-assessment.
what about her direct reports?
That's what I was thinking, that versus outside contractors, I was thinking the people she
Direct report,
directly.
correct, which are the
supervise,
directors, yes.
he or she, if she.
And that's what I
if she
wanted
says
to
so.
offer.
Yeah,
that we get their feedback as well.
I mean,
and we've got to provide that assessment too would have to be provided to those individuals and to the city manager.
Okay, so for clarification, you want a 360, so the department heads, which are the city
Correct.
manager's direct reports, will also evaluate the city manager. Is that also at your 30, what time frame are you contemplating for that?
it would be, I guess, at the same intervals that we have, so everything can be aligned. I mean, that's the only way you're gonna be able to help make a decision with everybody's input and information. Otherwise, if the commission just did it, then if there's some other information that we would need to be able to make a decision, then we won't have the information.
Understood. For clarification purposes, can I get those timeframes?
She said 30, 60, 90.
30, 60, 90 days? And then
I thought it was at the
annually?
I thought it was at the.
What is?
No, there was, we have an evaluation currently is at 6
No,
months.
6 months,
And
and
then
the annual.
the annual.
So I think we're talking 6 months. That was the plan that we requested the applicant submit. We're not
Okay.
talking about the,
Okay.
so it's the 6 month and annual.
Okay,
The
so the direct
probationary.
reports will evaluate the city manager in 6 months and then again annually. Thereafter, it will be on an annual basis
Correct.
only.
Now, let me ask this question. Being that we have established that as the protocol of which we would like to follow, how do we ensure that those that she report directly to her, are we making it mandatory? Or how do we make sure that we get something to feast off of?
If we're saying this is going to be part of the evaluation process, it has to be.
It has to be
required,
modified and-
Mandatory. Ms. Jones?
What I don't want to happen is if we make it to where it's not mandatory, that we have one person
Right.
that we're feasting off of for consideration when we have several department heads. That's why I want to know, how do we take them into consideration with providing us information?
Ms. Jones or Ms. West, do you have any thoughts on how we ensure that we have that response that we need?
Yeah, so it appears we're going to have to create the process of how you've already established and make that an outlining part of the process. So we'll have that process in place for you all that I'll put together. From the selection process to the evaluation process, who will complete the evaluations, and then at what time frame that they will complete them.
Okay.
So I will put that together and then I'll forward it out to all of you all for review and make sure if I'm missing anything or any steps in that, then you all can just give me feedback and then I'll change it or address it how it needs to be done.
I don't, and this is me, and I feel like some of the stuff that you just said, you're going back. I think for now, we focus on where we are moving forward, so you don't become so boggled down with the process, because hopefully at this juncture, we don't have to worry about a process, which gives you the opportunity to knock out the 2 or 3 things that are now and in the near future. And then you can circle back around to, once we get to a point, to do the actual process from the start to the finish.
I guess my question is, are you making it mandatory for her direct reports to provide that evaluation of the city manager for your consideration? Is that a mandatory requirement of department heads?
That's why I asked. the
I think
question.
that was the question, Ms. Jones. Can we make it mandatory? How can we actually make that happen?
Yeah.
Or is it within our realm to do so? Go ahead.
We set policy.
I know,
We,
I know.
well, no, we set
I
policy.
understand that. I'm asking Ms. Jones, so I understand. I'm on from the HR perspective, please.
So, yeah, we can
Okay.
make that a requirement for our department heads. I would create a memorandum to state as such, as well as what they're actually completing. And the reason and the time frame as to when they need to have it completed for your review, and then each of you would get that. And so I'm clear, it's only for the department heads that are direct reports to the city manager.
Correct.
How productive will that really be? Because I guarantee you, there'll be no department head that give their boss a negative report or feedback.
Well, negative or
What?
positive.
No, I'm just, no, I'm not anticipating that, but that's kind of hard to do.
Can I
it-
make a request, Ms. Jones? You know, the 360-degree feedback is not new, and there are best practices. So perhaps maybe that's what you could do, is take a look and understand. Whenever I've worked before, I've always had to do 360s. I had to give my bosses feedback. I guess the question is, what is that? Well, yeah, it comes to us because it helps us evaluate the city manager thoroughly, because we're not there every day in the trenches.
So would this be anonymous, or would this be, it's given to just HR then to us?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
And we give the city manager her evaluation, not the
Not
direct
theirs,
feedback.
right.
That comes to
That we
us.
incorporate it into our
That's correct.
evaluation.
I get it.
That's the way.
That
it's
comes to us,
Yeah.
not to, she doesn't get her direct reports
Right.
feedback.
We use that in our assessment.
Correct.
So in keeping true to the time frame that Attorney West has requested, if we're doing it at our 6-month mark, when would we like that information to be submitted? Our information as well as the department heads to be submitted to us for proper opportunities to look over.
And I think that's a HR's
HR.
job, Miss
It's
Jones.
not a HR job, it's our job, because if we want it to be submitted to us in a timely frame, because a lot of times, and it's no harm on our departments, we get stuff a week before, or if we want ample enough time to go through and really vet, if we have any questions, it gives us the opportunity. So are we looking for at the 5-month mark to have that information provided? So at
I see.
6 months, that gives us a month to look over, meet with department heads, should we need clarity Or are we looking for a 2-week timeframe?
Yeah, we wouldn't meet with the department heads, but I think the 5-month
Absolutely.
time is
You can't-
reasonable.
You have the ability, if you have the ability to seek clarification, because if someone meets or you need clarification on something that's documented, that opportunity should be provided for us to get clarification.
Okay, I think that 5 months, we said 5 months in terms of that information being provided to us.
I get it, but again, this is not corporate America.
It's not corporate America.
I'm not finished with my statement, Commissioner Davis, and I get best practices. But then again, if we are looking to have valued information, and if there is something that is documented, that clarity needs to be provided, we should have the ability to get with whomever to make sure that as we're taking in consideration their perspective of their superior that we are going to be evaluating, ultimately, we want to make sure that that information is concise and we're not taking in consideration anything or putting it in our interpretation. Because if that's the case, why not have a meeting and have department heads to come and do that? So it gives us the opportunity for us to for it to keep them in a position to where there's a relationship between commissioners as well as the department head and the level of confidentiality versus us putting them in a position to say something different. That's the only reason I'm leaving it open for the opportunity. If you don't want to, you don't have to, but putting that out there because some can communicate better in person versus communicating in a written document.
Thank you, Commissioner Davis.
So thank you. So what I'm offering, I think, is even more relevant in a government area. Our jobs as commissioners is not to go to get feedback on their boss for us. Let me finish, and you may have to help me put some things in perspective, and I'm going to tell you, I personally would never complete an evaluation on my boss if her boss was going to come to me and question me about it. The purpose of 360-degree feedback is to give us information, one, to look for trends, because you can have one disgruntled area who says something bad, but let's say everybody else says something good. I'm not saying you don't follow up. Our follow-up is with the city manager. If we start going to city staff to follow up, especially on 360-degree feedback, I think that could create a hostile environment. Or potentially us, commissioners operating out of our, I'm just saying, this is my view on it. If we want our job, we have one employee, that is the city manager. And I think we have to manage it. However, since I am speaking from what I think, and I am not an HR professional, I would like to ask, if appropriate, for Ms. Jones to find best practices for 360-degree feedback, especially in a government or municipal environment. That way, we don't have to talk about what we think. We can get the industry best practice and standard. I am very adamant about ensuring that our staff, and I'm not insinuating anyone else is not, but I want to make sure city staff is protected and able to provide feedback, because the whole point is to provide a comprehensive evaluation. We don't know what the work is, because again, we're looking at the information provided in relation to what we're evaluating. There could be opportunity to talk to the city manager about some issues, but I'm just, unless it comes back that that's the best way to do it, and I've never heard of that in over 35 years of working, and yes, it has been in corporate environments, and I have worked with government entities where we had to provide and follow government regulations. I've never seen that. So I'm just, I'm sorry.
Okay, are you set? Are you all set?
Apparently.
Go ahead.
No.
Commissioner.
The issue that we're having is very much consistent. A recommendation is simply a recommendation. It's not to say we do it or to say we don't. If at this point you want to put a check mark on there to say, I'm willing to talk, put that, and that'll solve all issues. But the going, I get it, but we're confusing staff even more with regards to the back and forth dialogue that we talk about best practices one way, and then we talk about the industry standards in another way. Are we going to look at the industry standards or the best practices? Everything that is a best practice or a industry standard does not necessarily mean we have to adopt. I have sat on this dais since 2015. No process in which we've done prior is the same. We have to be willing to move with time. We have to be willing to be fluid. If it didn't work before, it's all a part of the consideration that is put forward. That's what I'm trying to say. But the more we talk, the more we confuse our staff, which puts us in a position to really not get anything accomplished.
Commissioner, are you set? Or do you want to say something?
Yeah.
Commissioner Dennis?
You know, I'm basing this on one thing, obviously not experience. I'm basing it on the role and responsibility of a city commissioner, period. So that's my perspective. I hear you.
So eliminate that.
So to your point, Commissioner, because we are under Florida's Sunshine Law, all of these documents will be subject to public records requests. So Commissioner Campbell does have a valid point. If there's a direct report that would be more comfortable speaking to the commissioners rather than putting it in writing, which would immediately be subject to public records requests and can go in the paper, that is an opportunity that is not a reality in the corporate world because that would be considered confidential information within the HR department. And that is not the case. These will not be exempted public records.
May I?
Okay, thank you. Yes, go.
Well, if that's the case, I agree with Commissioner Davis, because if in fact an employee make a statement, they must be willing to stand behind that statement because there's implications based upon a conversation, and without it being in writing, don't mean anything. So I would have to tend to agree with you on that one.
Commissioner Borum?
Yes, I'm very familiar with the 360-degree feedback. I've worked in government and private industry as well as foundation. So I am very familiar with it, and I totally agree with Commissioner Davis.
Any further discussion on this topic? I also agree. I worked in government for a long time, over 25 years, and we did 360s, and it wasn't, we were not under the sunshine in Connecticut. It was a bit different, but yeah, I just think, yeah.
But you know, even being under the sunshine, if in the sunshine, if you make a statement, you need to be able to stand behind your statement. We have protection built in to non-retaliation. So again, it's the commission's job to make sure that those things are enforced. If HR is not, so those things happen on the HR level and it happens on the commission level. So we shouldn't be afraid that if you want to say something, if you got statements that you need to make them. We're here to enforce the policies, and there's non-retaliation. It means non-retaliation. I don't know if other organizations, sometimes they might not do it, but I think we have a responsibility to make sure that we carry those things out. And that's what some of our other employees had comments that they wanted to make, but they were afraid. And we did have people to actually come at the very end, within the last 6-8 months, came and made statements and they weren't retaliated against. So I think we need to make sure that we enforce what we have on the books.
Commissioners have done it before. Point of clarification, my statement was not in any way, shape, or form made with regards to having a person not stand by what they put. My statement was giving me the ability to go to a department head should I desire to seek clarification from what was written. That's my statement. All of the other stuff was not what my intentions was. And if that was what everyone got from it, that was not it. Giving me the opportunity, because again, if I have one hire, but I'm leaning on the opportunity to give someone to speak on something regarding the hire that I have, I should be able to seek clarification in the event. Not saying that I'm going to do it, but in the event I feel I need to seek further information or clarity so that when I'm presenting information to my hire, that it is sound and not interpretation from what I'm getting or what I've read. That's why the 360, I get it. I've said it, I've been a part of it. I'm just asking that it be considered, if we are making something mandatory, that it gives me the opportunity to speak to whatever department head for clarity. If you don't want that to happen, let them submit it anonymously. But if we're making something mandatory, I should have the ability to go to that person who's submitting. If we're just looking for information as a whole, don't make it mandatory.
Any further discussion on this particular item? Any further discussion beyond this item? Any commissioner comments?
So I have a comment with
Go ahead.
regards to the time frame that we've given Ms. Cardy to respond. Once we get a response, what is our next step? Is it to wait until a meeting to confirm or confer, or what is the next steps from the commission standpoint, or what's the recommendation?
Ms. West?
So I will be putting all of your terms into a contract for her consideration. Once again, I'll get that out the door first thing in the morning, like I did with Mr. Jones. And I will give her a deadline of Wednesday, close of business, to respond. If she accepts the offer, you have a binding contract for her to act as city manager effective immediately.
Let me ask this question. Will she be traveling to the conference this week?
Yes.
May we take that into consideration?
In terms of her timeframe to respond?
Yes.
How does that impact that?
When does she leave? I guess that's what I'm asking, because I know some of us are leaving Wednesday. and
She
some of-
leaves Wednesday and comes back Friday.
Does that
And I
travel
think
t-
there's two of you that leave tomorrow.
Does that travel time impede on her being able to sit down and go through the contract? That's what I want to be fair.
What-
The fairness, I think, Commissioner, would be the same time that we gave everybody else. Once she's notified, then that time frame is gonna be
So
the
that means she's
timeframe.
gonna be notified tonight like Mr. Redmond was.
Correct.
And the contract went out.
At 8:14 a.m.?
No, that's fine, but she's gonna be notified prior to that tonight, as Ms. Jones did in our meeting. So she's not just being dropped dead with the email. So she's been getting a phone call saying tonight, stating that she has been considered for the permanent city
Being
manager.
offered that position. Yes,
That's what I'm trying to make sure that that process is clear.
yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments?
Commissioner comments?
You may.
I have a comment. And it's in reference to sunshine law and the sunshine public records request. And public records request and sunshine. Been informed that a public records requests have been requested by staff to look into some commissioners having conversation or what have you. And I want to go on the record stating that everybody up here on this dais, I have history with, and I know, with the exception of the mayor, I've known her since being elected. However, I have conversations that have absolutely nothing to do with the city from time to time. And in a small community as Palatka and other regions, you're going to talk to commissioners at functions and maybe ask how the family doing, maybe ask about events that, again, has absolutely nothing to do with city or city business. So people are going to see you. And I am one, will not shy away from a conversation on how you're doing from anyone. That's somewhat unrealistic. So if the people want to continue to ask, and that's their right to do for public records, it's great. But I think they're, wasting taxpayers' dollars and having people question about conversations unless they have some facts or something to back up their reason for suspicion. And I think with the dynamics and some of the dialogue that's up here, you could tell that there's no prior conversations about what we're talking about. That's almost obvious. But, I just want to make it clear that we, as citizens of this community, lifelong residents, most of us, we're going to have conversations and we're going to see each other in restaurants. And I think it's hypocritical to see your colleague and you can't go over and say hello to them and their family. And even after a meeting, because we get up here and we have discussion and sometimes it gets a little exciting and passionate. Yeah. And so it may be times where there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, I'm sorry for my tone. And I have went to commissioners and said that, the mayor as well, about maybe my tone up here on this dais. And it's nothing personal. When I leave here, it's nothing personal. We feel strongly about our positions and we feel strongly about representing Palatka. So I wanted to go on record saying that we don't have to be on pins and needles when you see someone in public that you can't speak to them or you can't have a civil conversation. And I think it's more healthier to do that than to avoid one another because it seems like we're adversarial at that time. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional commissioner comments?
I
Go ahead, go ahead.
I concur with Commissioner Jones. I've been on commission now on my 11th year, and again, nobody can ever say that I ever violated a sunshine as it relates to anything. Now, there's been a lot of public record requests and different things of that nature. Don't yield anything, at least in my camp. But again, you got to have the ethics. It's all within your morals and values. And there's nobody can say that I ever violated the sunshine law. If I see a commissioner, if I see somebody, I'm not going to avoid them like the plague, because I know where my morals and values lie. And so, again, I concur completely with Commissioner Jones in that regard. Now, we're not going to be hanging out every day. I mean, we see each other. We're going to talk. I talk to all the commissioners and the mayor. When I say I'm not going to avoid people, and I know when we got things coming up for a vote, I know how to make sure that there's no improprietary thing going on. But again, I thank you for bringing that up, because we have a community here who like to kind of throw things around as it relates to sunshine. But I live in a glass house, and I don't mind people knowing any and everything that I do.
Any other comments? Do we have a motion to adjourn? Thank you. My meeting adjourned.